A dangerous escalation seems to be taking place in the Red Sea. The Iranian-backed Houthi rebels are now getting into direct confrontations with the U.S. Navy. What exactly has gone on and what is going to happen in the future? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. We're going to talk about all that. So let's get the bottom line up front here. What seems to have happened, and I've confirmed this through a number of sources, but this Jerusalem Post article seems to be the most accurate. I acknowledge it's an Israeli news outlet. Like, no kidding. But this seems to be a generally accurate article from the other sources that I've checked. That in the last, it seems like about 48 hours or so, 10 Houthi rebels were killed after the U.S. Navy sunk their boats. This was during one of the Houthi attempts to hijack a commercial trade carrier. And the Houthi rebels are, of course, a Iranian-backed group within Yemen, one of the sides of the Yemeni civil war that's been going on for a number of years now, and is seen as a proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia. But because the Houthi rebels are so Iranian affiliated, it means that they are now being either coerced, instructed, or are choosing to intervene as the best they can in the Israel-Hamas conflict, right? Hamas also being Iranian associated or Iranian backed. And the campaign that the Houthis have been on over the last several weeks has been to disrupt shipping within the key shipping lane of the Red Sea. Let's see if we can find a maritime traffic map, and I'll show you guys just how key the maritime traffic. Oh, here we go. Perfect. All right. This is a real-time map, actually, of all maritime traffic in the world. And you can see circumnavigating Africa is key, but just look at the sheer volume of traffic passing through both the Persian Gulf and crucially around the Red Sea. You can see that it's one of the densest shipping lanes in the entire world in terms of concentration. I mean, just look at the number of ships that pass through here on a regular basis and note how incredibly narrow the actual passage is through the Red Sea. And you can see what's happening is that as many of these ships pass through this very narrow point, the danger is that Houthi rebels are attempting to interdict some of these ships, either to hijack them or even sink them, creating a water hazard essentially inside the Red Sea, cutting off some of really key access to the Suez Canal, right? They're effectively blocking the Suez Canal from this side here and will instead force a lot of maritime traffic to go around the Horn of Africa, raising the cost of literally every single shipped good in the entire world. So this is a incredibly vulnerable part of the world, and it is essentially being held hostage, or at least the Houthi rebels are attempting to hold it hostage, likely in an effort to coerce Israel to change its policies or end its war in Gaza. Of course, the U.S. military is the guarantor of shipping lane freedom basically in the entire world. Bet you didn't know your tax dollars were doing that. And so when someone tries to cut off a major vital shipping lane, the U.S. sort of inherently is going to get involved. And in this instance, what seems to have happened is that these Iranian-backed Houthis attempted to seize control of the Maersk Hangzhou container ship. The Iranians claim that a lot of these ships they go after are like Israeli owned, but as you guys probably know, ownership of a major multinational corporation is pretty sketchy at best. And oftentimes, even if an Israeli company is the majority stakeholder, the cargo may be owned by a different company. And the crew is almost certainly not Israeli. They're oftentimes from a variety of countries. And so and oftentimes these ships are flagged in different countries still. So trying to sit there and say, oh, this is a blow against the Israelis. But if you're killing Koreans or Filipino sailors or stealing cargo from Chinese manufacturers en route to Brazil, Are you really striking a blow against the Israelis? Because bear in mind, guys, big corporations and big ships have insurance. They're insured. So again, are you striking a blow at the Israelis, or are you striking a blow at an insurance company? This is the sort of like sophisticated thinking that better strategists do, and people like the Houthi rebels and even Iranians, a Revolutionary Guard Corps, doesn't. Though actually, I think the Iranians have a strategy at work here, and we're going to talk about what that is here in a minute. But the mechanics of what happened is 4 small Houthi boats fired on this civilian vessel and attempted to board it. This vessel had a security team, like many vessels that pass through high-risk regions. The security team opened fire on the Houthis, basically stalling for time, while the ship sent out a distress call. That was received by the USS Eisenhower and USS Gravely, who deployed helicopters to the scene, and the Houthis, being the geniuses they are, immediately fired at the helicopters too. Helicopters in the U.S. has a rule: you can't shoot at U.S. forces, period. It's actually a U.S. policy. No U.S. military personnel ever, wherever they operate, ever surrender their right to self-defense. And so the helicopters returned fire, and of course, the predictable happened when 4 small outboard motor boats encounter the full might of the U.S. Navy. 3 of the 4 boats were sunk, killing all aboard, and the 4th boat fled the area. The result, of course, is that 10 Houthi rebels were killed. And of course, the Houthis, absolutely brain-dead take here, warned that, quote, the American enemy bears the consequences of this crime and its repercussions, that its military movements in the Red Sea to protect Israeli warships will not prevent Yemen from performing its religious, moral, and humanitarian duty in support of the oppressed of Palestine and Gaza. This is stupid. This is a dumb take for a bunch of reasons. One, if you're launching if you're a military operation, then you can't call a response to it a crime. Like, it just doesn't work that way, right? Like nobody's, I don't sit here and go, oh, the Russians counterattacking is a crime. I mean, I think unless there's evidence of some war crime, but like a counterattack in a military operation is not a crime. But again, it's fine. They're Houthi rebels. They're just trying to be like, no, America bad, right? Of course, a senior member of the Houthis warned on X that, quote, the American aggression is a declaration of war. Again, shooting at the American helicopters is just a dumb decision. And trying to board a civilian vessel, here's the thing. It's not clear the helicopters could have stopped them, right? They can't land on a commercial vessel. So choosing to fire at the helicopters is a really dumb idea. It says it cannot pass without a response, and he said, quote, the coming hours are full of surprises. But here's the thing, guys. The actual results of this are actually, I think this is exactly what the Houthis want. And I'll explain why here in a sec, right? So note here, after the attack, Maersk, the company that operates the ship, said that it was suspending the transit of its vessels through the Red Sea for 48 hours, which, as we talked about, is a problem because the alternative to transiting the Red Sea for thousands of ships is to go all the way around Africa, right? And if the Houthis are successful, they're going to provide a massive disruption to global trade networks. And when you have a massive disruption to global trade networks, then it becomes every country's problem. And as we've seen, the U.S. Navy is the guarantor of shipping freedom, which means that if they want to, maintain that position, they have no choice but to stop the Houthis from doing this. The issue is right now, the Israel-Gaza conflict is a conflict between Israel and Gaza. No other countries seem to be getting involved one way or the other. Lebanon, a little bit. The Hezbollah groups in Lebanon are kind of getting involved. The goal of Hamas is to turn this conflict, and the goal of Iran is to turn this conflict into not just the Israelis and Gaza, but turn it into a conflict of the West or the United States against all Muslims everywhere. And in order to do this, of course, you need the U.S. to bomb some Muslims. Well, you can bait them to do it, is the goal of the Houthis here, by creating this massive threat to the global trade network, right? Again, you may note that the Red Sea, while sort of helpful to provide some trade to Israel, is not actually all that essential, right? Israel has many more ports in the Mediterranean. So they're not striking a blow at Israel. What they're doing is trying to bait the United States to escalate the conflict and to enter the conflict, particularly in and around the region of kind of Yemen and the Gulf Sea. The idea is that a large outcry in the Muslim world will galvanize support and make it so that it's not just the Palestinians fighting, but many more countries and groups begin to view this conflict as one of all of the West against all of the Muslim world. This was, of course, a tried and true strategy. Saddam Hussein did something similar in the 90s. By trying to draw Israel into the Gulf War, because so many of the U.S.'s, or basically because if the Israel joined the coalition, then the other members would have to withdraw. You saw something similar in Afghanistan when they attempted to frame the U.S. action there as part of a global jihadist call. And it kind of worked, especially in ISIS. ISIS most recently successfully did that, drawing Muslim extremists from around the world to help them build their caliphate as a sort of repudiation against the West. So this idea of drawing the Muslim world into a conflict against the West instead of just Israel is a legitimate strategy that has some potential for success. What does it mean, though, going forward? Well, the problem is that the U.S. Navy also does not like to deal with this, and they need to put these Houthi rebels away. So there's a lot of rumors that they are actually going to be launching likely airstrikes or cruise missile strikes against Houthi sites, which is a further escalation because remember, the Houthis are another proxy group backed by Iran. So effectively, these Houthis will have gotten the U.S. to intervene in the Yemeni civil war. You also have the rumors that are going on right now, and they're on, let me see if I can pull them up for you. There's rumors flying around X right now that the Houthis have actually launched 2 cruise missiles directly at U.S. naval ships, right? So instead of targeting these commercial ships as an intermediary, the Yemenis are now firing missiles directly at U.S. Navy vessels. And the Houthis are not stupid. They are not going to destroy or sink a U.S. Navy vessel. Maybe there's an off chance they might achieve a lucky strike of some sort, but the best people, the people best able to damage U.S. naval vessels remains the U.S. Navy. Okay, that's just how the Navy seems to behave right now. The Houthis, like they want this escalation, right? They want this to become a big fight because right now, right, for them, the benefit would be that Saudi Arabia wouldn't be able to be on the same side as the U.S. in a fight like this, right? It would just complicate the situation and expand the war. And that is their core goal here. So anyway, guys, that's all I had for now. I'm going to keep you guys abreast of what's going on. But if you guys know it's New Year's and you probably have a lot of resolutions like I do, you're going to need the energy to execute on those resolutions. Well, that's why I developed Strike Gum. This is a veteran-owned company, namely this veteran here. And Strike Gum is just the superior energy drink alternative. Unlike an energy drink that has 41 grams of sugar, Strike Gum has 0. And it has 90 milligrams of sugar per piece, 100 milligrams of alpha GPC, right? So as much sugar as a Red Bull or an Amp Energy, but 0 sugar. And it's convenient, fits into 5 of these are in every pack. It's just a tremendous deal relative to an energy drink. Plus, we have a sale going on right now, strikegum.com. Free shipping on orders over $70 in the US and $100 on international shipping. So if you've thought about ordering or reordering your Strike Gum, check it out. Anyway, that's all I had, guys. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.